Okay, hello again, grade 11s. So this is going to be the last example I'm going to do for you today. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to solve this triangle, which means find all the sides and find all the angles. And this time you'll see that I'm given all three sides. So whenever you're given a triangle where you have all three sides, the sine law just can't work because you don't have any of the angles, so you won't have any complete ratios. So what that means is I'm going to have to go ahead and I'm going to have to use the cosine law. Now the trick with this is that the cosine law is set up to solve for a side, so I'm going to have to rearrange it in order to find an angle. So I'm just going to pick at random angle A. So I'm going to find angle A. That means that the cosine law looks like this. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times cos. And remember, the angle here goes with the angle here. So what this means is that when we plug everything in, this is what we're going to be looking for. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug in all the information that I have, remembering I do have side A now. So 9.1 squared is equal to 15.7 squared plus 10.3 squared minus 2 times 15.7 times 10.3 times cos, and I just put an A here because I do not know the angle, and remember that big A means it's an angle and it's not side A. Okay, so from here what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify each part of this. So the 9.1 squared on its own, I'm going to combine these two together, and I'm going to combine these four together here. But notice I don't have A here, so after I've done this, I'm going to multiply these three numbers, and the cos A will still be attached. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause the video, and when I unpause it, all of a sudden for you, instantaneously, all of these numbers will appear, and then I'll explain where they came. Okay, so as promised, some numbers sort of appeared there, but don't fret. 9.1 squared turned into 82.81. I squared these two and added them together and ended up here. And then I multiplied these three numbers together and got here. And of course, I still have times cos A. All right, so from this point, most common mistake, people are going to want to do this number minus this number. You can't do that because cos A is attached. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to work to get cos A by itself. And first, we're going to subtract this portion here. So we subtract this part from both sides. And we're very careful because what ends up happening here, on the right it cancels out, and that's pretty straightforward. And on the left, what we end up with is actually a negative number. So we have 82.81 and we subtract 352.58. And on the left-hand side, we have negative 269.77. And that's equal to, and on the right-hand side, negative 323.42 times cos A. So we're actually getting pretty close here. And the next thing that we need to do to get cos A by itself is we divide by this whole number. Now, if you've been careful, you still have the negative sign there. It is a very common mistake, though, for this little tiny negative sign to get dropped along the way. But don't drop it because it really does matter. So I'm going to divide on both sides by the 323.42. And of course, the reason I'm doing that, oh, I missed the negative sign here. That's important because these two fully cancel. And on the left-hand side, I'm left with negative 269.77 divided by 323.42, which gives me negative, oh, pardon me, positive. A negative makes a positive. 0.8341 is equal to cos A. And of course, my final step is to take the inverse cos of my answer, and I end up with A is equal to 33.5 degrees. And I might just go ahead and leave it as 33.5. I don't really like rounding the 0.5s because I find you lose a lot no matter what direction you go. And from here, I can put in my 33.5 degrees. And I have two more angles to solve for. So what I do, well, I have this angle, 33.5, and I have its corresponding side, which is 9.1. So that means I can use the sine law. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up. So sine of 33.5 divided by 9.1 is equal to, and now I'm just going to pick an angle to solve for. I could solve for B, I could solve for C. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve for C. So sine of C divided by the side C, which is 10.3. And as you've done several times by now, hopefully, you have to bring this up and over and multiply. And of course, that's because we can just multiply by both sides. So we get that sine C is equal to 10.3 multiplied by sine 33.5. And then I divide that by 9.1. And I get that sine C equals 0.6247. And now I take the inverse sine, and I get that C is equal to 39 degrees. And of course, everybody knows that from here, angle B is quite simply 180 minus 39 minus 33.5. So in the end, we end up with angle B equaling 107.5 degrees. And that makes sense. You can look at the angle and you can see quite obviously that that is going to work. Okay, so that is it for this video. I hope that you're okay with this stuff, and good luck on the assignment, and I will see you on Monday. So have a good weekend as well.